Purposes for assessment. People must often use language assessment to collect two kinds of data. One is connected with the learning of languages, with assessing the degree of progress toward a learning goal. These purposes are important in school and other educational setting, and so the assessment used to collect the data come under the heading of educational assessment. Educational language assessment usually takes place within language programs. The procedures are usually based on the content that has been taught, are frequently developed and carried out by the teachers, and can often be flexible, allowing for the use of observational techniques, watching and recording what learning do, portfolios, collection of the learner's work, self-assessment, learning making judgment about their own abilities, and information tests or quizzes, as well as formal tests administered under more strictly controlled conditions. The second kind of information is connected with whether or not a person's language ability is adequate to satisfy some predetermined need or standard. This is known as proficiency assessment. The assessment of language proficiency is usually connected to the language and related skills that are needed to carry out a job, study, and an academic subject, or fulfill other kinds of role. Because the focus is not on what the assessed has been taught, this kind of assessment is less likely to be carried out by the teachers and more likely to involve formal tests administered under controlled, uniform, standardized, conditioned, and produced by national or international agencies. Proficiency assessment are distinct from educational assessment because they do not century of learning process of the outcomes of the particular course of study. Proficiency assessment are connected with the person's current functionality rather than with their learning. What they assess can accomplish through their use of language now. Not how they reach this point or how long it might take them to arrive at a higher level of ability. In proficiency assessment, the issue is whether or not the person being assessed has sufficient language ability to satisfy certain needs. Proficiency assessments are often used to gatekeeping decisions, immigrations, access to employment, and educational opportunities. These are related to a relative specific purpose, such as using the language in leading groups of tourists around a city, working as dentists, steering ship in international waters, or studying marketing at university. Or it may be for less specialized or less clearly definable general purposes that might apply to very wide range of language users. Tasks that many language users might need to carry out at some point might include reserving a room in a hotel or guest house, filling in form with basic personal information, buying food, following television's new programs, reading article in popular magazine, or holding conversation about personal experiences. Educational assessment in teaching and learning. Assessment can take place at different stages during the learning process. Before they begin a course in new language, we may be interested in the learner's aptitude for language learning. Their potential to learn, although we know that almost anyone can learn a foreign language, given the time and motivation. Some people may be predisposed to make faster progress than others. As a sports coach looking for someone with the potential to be a good basketball player, might try to find someone who is tall and able to jump high, with quick reaction, good coordination, and competitive spirit. In the same way, some selective language training programs, such as those organized by the military, need to pick from the large group for applicants those with the greatest potential to learn language quickly. The Prinsley or Language Aptitude Battery, for example, set out to identify as potential language learner individuals with a good memory for word shape and sound, who are good at discriminating between similar sounds, good at identifying grammatical patterns, and who have interested in other cultures. Partly Because motivation is not widely regarded as much important than aptitude is shaping language learning success, and partly because most language courses cater for learners who already have some knowledge of a language. Aptitude tests are not as widely used as the knowledge of language. It is more often the case the course provides, which to find out how of the content of the course language learners already know before they begin, or how much they have learned by the end. In this case, assessment may be prognostic, looking forward to the content plan for the course and deciding on priorities or concerned with achievements. Looking back to what the learners has been taught to find out how much they have absorbed and what might need to be converged again. Aptitude and prognostic assessment are used to inform selection decision, deciding which learning may require language courses or choosing this most likely to succeed. They may also be used to inform placement decision about which of the available classes best matches each learner's need. During a course achievements assessment might be used to gauge the ongoing improvement made by learners. At the end of course, they are often used in making pass-fail decision or in assigning grades. In using achievement assessment, the teachers may be interested in obtaining detailed diagnostic information about which part of the material the learners have taken in and what parts will need more works. In assessing learning, a distinction is often made between more formative use of assessment that immediately quick or guide what teachers and learner will do next and more summative uses, which focus on the retrospective features of what has been learned. Another way of expressing this distinction is to call the formal assessment for learning to contrast this with assessment of learning. In other words, in terms summative assessment audits learning, formative assessment inform it. An example of the use of informative assessment would be teachers observing that some students are having difficulty in distinguishing between for and since when taking about time in English. The teachers may be decided to intervene by asking questions and providing example to help build their understanding of the distinction. This kind of assessment informs learning because the teacher is able to adjust the content of her classes to take account of the students' performance. The focus is on what should happen next in the classroom to bring about learning. An example of a move summative assessment would be an end-of-year test based on the topics taught during the year. The test audits learning by providing evidence of what the students have learned and how will they have met the course objectives. The focus is on finding out how much learning has happened, like the formative assessment described above. Such a test might include questions dealing with specific point of grammar, such as the for since distinction found in the diagnostic test, but the result may not be available until the school year has finished and there is no immediate opportunities to work in improving performance as all the students have left in the case. The result might be used to program evaluation or judgment about the effectiveness of the language course rather than on the abilities of individual learners. Gaining an awareness on how well the learners are progressing is, of course, easiest when the learners are also involved and interested in the process and share this insight of their teachers. Good learners set themselves targets. Think about how best to learn, trying out and evaluating new techniques, and often reflect on their own progress toward their goals. Self-assessment and peer assessment have emerged a powerful means of engaging learning in these processes and helping them to make control over their own learning. Of course, teaching can become more challenging when the learners do not want to learn or are unwilling to communicate. This brings us to other reason for using assessment, motivating learning. Because assessments are often associated with regards access to opportunities such as courses or jobs, prizes, certificates, grade, praise, and attention from the other teachers. They can serve as powerful motivations from learners. However, using assessment in this way is risky and potentially very damaging. In some cases, it can actually have a negative effect on a learner's motivations. The learners who repeatedly fail to gain good grades or fast tests will sooner or later become frustrated, conclude that language learning is not worth the effort, and give up even trying to learn. Formative diagnostic assessment, by providing helpful feedback information about performance that can show the learner what he or she needs to do in order to improve, promises to guide learners in their studies. However, for many learners, especially those in formal school, success on tests, especially major proficiency tests, may come to seem more important than successful communication in the language they are learning. Where this happens, the content of the test can take over from the official curriculum, and learning goals that are not covered on the test may get pushed aside and ignored. Teachers may teach, and students may try to learn only the material that they think will be assist. The changes in teaching and learning that may come about in the response to an upcoming test are known as washback, and this has emerged as an important area of language assessment research. Feedback and washback are discussed in more detail in Module 4. Educational assessment, on the one hand, particular formative assessment and proficiency assessment, on the other, are often seen as distinct, even incompatible areas of specialization conducted by the different people employing different techniques, informed by different theories, and embracing different values. For this reason, they are often treated separately, and the relationship between them range from manual indifference to some different heated conflict. This conflict is more often placed on the field of summative assessment, where the role of the teachers as the facilitator of learning. The word of formative assessment comes up against the need of account for what has been learned in terms of the general standard set by employers, governments, or other external agencies. The world of summative assessment and proficiency assessment. Although the differences between what teachers do in the classroom and large-scale testing are important, there is also a good deal in common between them. To be effective, both depend about all on well-crafted questions on other techniques that will provide useful evidence of learners' abilities. Task types used in large-scale tests can be adapted for use to the classroom, while innovative ideas first tried out in class can find their way into more formal assessment. Both classroom assessment and large-scale tests can be improved by careful and critical review and through experience. The result from an assessment on one occasion inevitable point to improvements to be made the next time it is used, achieving good quality in both requires collective and sympathetic effort. Way of checking improving language assessment as described in Module 3 and 4. Perhaps the strongest argument for treating assessment in the classroom and in the examination hall in the same book is that in a healthy educational system, both should work together. If teachers understand how tests work, they will be effective at preparing their students to take examination. On the other hand, as Alderson remarked, testing is too important to be left to tester. It is essential that educational tests should reflect the curriculum and the needs and interests of learners. Teachers are familiar with their learners and with the reality of how the curriculum is delivered in practice. They are therefore well placed to judge the content of tests and to hold the test maker to account.